Good evening and welcome to the Selectmen's meeting of February 27, 2018. First item is a salute to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have an approval of the agenda?
Make a motion we approve the agenda.
I second. All in favor? I'm going to table the minutes of the last meeting. I didn't get a chance to read them.
Good.
Department head committee chair updates. We have the marijuana ban.
So I put that on there, based on the conversation from last week. I only found 2 towns that have a 100% ban on everything, and I think that's what I heard you telling me. So one is Chapley and one is Lemoyne. So some samples for you. If I understood correctly too, you wanted to do this for a secret ballot in June?
Yeah,
These are just some sample ordinances. I have more. Certainly the board's not going to vote on them tonight. But I guess I just want to make sure I'm gathering the information that you're asking me to gather and what exactly the question is going to be so I can have the attorney help draft it. And essentially the deadline will fall similar with the nomination papers for selectmen. So we have a couple of weeks, so I just want to make sure I have the right direction.
so I think what I heard from the marijuana committee, that it's a little bit important to have, like you said, a preamble where it states, what passed in November of 16, the current situation with the state, and that what is legal now, even with the state's moratorium on commercial marijuana, that the ban is strictly commercial marijuana, and then pose the question. Is that correct? Did you want to speak to that?
Well, you can have that preamble on the ordinance but when they go in the ballot box, it's going to be a simple yes or no if they want to approve said ordinance, right? You're not going to put all that humble jumble on the ballot.
Okay.
Well, that's a good question for your attorney. I think the thing at least the committee, I'm Richard Nass, I'm on the marijuana committee, is that we want to try to clarify it, because there still seems to be a lot of confusion out there. When you say ban marijuana, people are going off thinking that somehow we're going to try to separate.
Well, I think that's why they've said they want it on the first couple of letters of the ordinance. You still have to put some responsibility on the voter.
Right.
And make sure they read the ordinance that they're voting on and not,
Right. This is a good question for the lawyer. What can we do with the preamble? And the committee is willing to work on, I envision this a couple of sentences.
Right, very simple.
Right.
Right, and both of these towns are only one page.
Yes.
One-page ordinances, so.
So we'll fashion up some kind of a preamble, and then I guess the lawyer will decide whether it's legal or not, and what part of that really is the ordinance as opposed to a preamble. Is the preamble part of the ordinance? All this stuff, so I don't know.
Okay.
But the question is going to be a simple, whether or not you want to ban commercial.
Right.
All commercial use in the town of Acton, based
Right.
on the ordinance that you guys draft. So is your committee meeting again to draft these ordinances, or the board, are you going to just take some of these samples and pick through what you're looking for?
We don't know. I would suggest you let us fashion up a preamble and do something here, and then give it back to you.
Did you get a copy of these?
I just did, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have something to work on.
Yeah.
I haven't scheduled a meeting yet, but I think from what I gathered last week, the folks on the committee are willing to spend a little bit more time and try to fashion up something here.
Okay. In the meantime, I'll read these and
Thank
look
you.
forward
Me
to
too.
your... Okay.
Okay.
So we'll put it on the agenda for next week?
Okay.
Well, I just want to make sure, and I'll have, let me reword that, I'll have all of the dates for the selectmen next week, but when you call a secret ballot by referendum, you've got to meet a deadline of I
Right.
believe it's 90 days before, so they have to sign an order, they have to be posted, there has to be a public hearing, so I tie that to when nomination papers are available, because those have to be available 85 days before the election, so I know it's coming up.
Okay, so when is it? When is that?
Well, I don't,
You
that's
don't
what
know
I said, I
yet.
don't have the dates in front of me, that's why I
Okay.
said put it on for next week, I'll at least give you the dates.
Sure.
But the
Great.
deadline will come right up, I assure you.
Yep, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, old business, we have the budget joint workshop with the Warrant and Finance.
So I just kind of put this all on together so we could just have a conversation. Mr. Williams did come into the office today and speak to me. He said that it sounded like most of his committee could move to March 24th if that's what you guys needed to do. He just really was encouraging that the board, he'd like to see a finished warrant prior to them really digging in and going into the department budgets because they don't want to have to go back and forth. So he's wondering what kind of timeline when you think you might have a budget ready for them, and he would also want your blessing to tell the department heads and committees that their Warrant and Finance may be pulling them in additionally, because they don't feel like the joint meeting that we've prepped for the 24th really may give them enough time. So he wants to make sure that he has your blessing.
As I understand, each department head will have 15 minutes,
Correct.
and that's not enough time to ask questions?
Well, he feels like they may come up after the
After.
fact, or as they look into it more. Yeah, that's what he said.
I think we did a similar thing last year.
Yeah, I think so too.
And I don't know, but
And I
maybe
mean-
one department get called back in.
Right, and I think that
So-
for the most part, I mean, I know that most of our budgets, most of our budgets are completely flatlined with no increases anywhere, so there's not gonna be a whole lot of questions on those. But I think, like you said, a couple of the special projects, but he just asked me to pass that along. But he just doesn't wanna get into their committee starting to look at a budget and starting to dive into it, and then the board making changes. So, the treasurer has the warrant all but ready. We're just waiting for a few last-minute decisions from you guys. So I don't know if you want to have another workshop with the treasurer, if you want me to bring her into the meeting next week, and we've got to make some commitments to some of these
It's unclear.
articles.
Does he want to see a draft of our final or the actual signed?
Well, it's not going to be signed. He just
Okay.
doesn't want you changing the numbers after the fact. Because if they make a recommendation on the, District 1 for $100,000 and then you decide to cut it to 85, he doesn't want it going back and forth. He wants a warrant once you're comfortable with the
Okay,
numbers.
he'll get that.
Yeah, I think last year we did bounce back and forth on some of them, and it
Right.
did cause a little issue, so.
So where
I
does
don't know
the,
why we couldn't do that.
so where does the board stand as far as finalizing the numbers that you guys have been talking about? Do we need?
So he,
Say we get together one more time
yeah.
with,
Does he want the draft warrant before the 24th?
No, I think that he would be,
On the 24th?
On the 24th.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's doable.
okay. So we'll schedule one more final.
Okay. All right, moving on to the old stove.
Just putting another call out. I didn't hear from anybody regarding that stove, so I want to make sure that we mention it again. We did get the quote from Central. Luke, our heating guy, is going to do all the installation and conversion from the propane to the natural gas or vice versa, however it's set up. Trying to figure out what to do with that old stove. If anybody knows where it came from, anybody thinks they might want it, it's just going to be disposed of.
Last call. One more week?
Okay.
Okay. Policy governing access to public records.
So last week I gave you the draft that Brad had, your attorney drew up. It's pretty similar. You were going to compare it to the one online. There's just a couple of MSRA title changes. Did we have,
I don't have the copy in front of me.
so want to table it until next week?
Sure. Cheering for Charlie.
Just wanted to take a minute to thank everybody that came out. We, as a town, everybody included that helped in so many different ways, raised $5,000 for that family in one Friday night for our spaghetti dinner. Can't give enough kudos to the fire department and for the staff at the town hall and for everybody in town that brought something, made something, dessert, or showed up and purchased a spaghetti dinner. But it was $5,000 just in that night. The family is extremely grateful, so
yeah, this place was absolutely mobbed. It was wonderful. Really was good.
unless you were cooking the spaghetti. So hopefully we didn't run out of food, but we just, sometimes you never know.
It was nice to have everybody pitch in. They worked all long Friday getting that stuff ready. Thank you for helping out to those of you who did.
Everybody, yep.
A little bit goes a long way. Recovery fee for the dog.
So although we didn't mention any names last week, our Lebanon story of our dog owners at Ted's seemed to travel pretty well. The individual came in this week and paid the fee.
Nice.
Notified the courts that we're all set.
Okay. Flat Ground Road.
So last week, a couple of weeks ago now, you met with Lankowski again, and you asked him to write something up that I gave you guys last week. I don't know if you were planning on reading it, if you guys have discussed it. I've kind of left Dennis in the dark a little bit.
Did you see it?
Did.
Okay.
So I don't know how you want to move forward with that. That kind of ties to the warrant article too, as far as are we taking that off, hoping that we're going to go with that, or?
Should I read the letter? Okay, hold
Public,
on.
yep.
At the conclusion of my meeting with the board last week, we agreed on a possible way forward to deal with the flat ground road issues. As I understand the sense of the board, they would like to be able to provide some relief to the residents on Flat Ground Road by making some improvements to the road and also by plowing and performing routine maintenance without taking on all of the potential future costs and liabilities that might attend a determination that Flat Ground Road was never properly discontinued. Given the ambiguities concerning the present status of the road, this seems to me to be a reasonable solution. The problem is how to make it work without violating the prohibition against spending public funds on private roads. My suggestion, which the board seemed to favor, was to initiate discussions with property owners on the road, probably through Dennis Long. The goal would be to offer a repair maintenance plan for the road acceptable to the town and to all of the affected landowners. If we were able to get all of the landowners on board, and I do believe it would have to be all, as opposed to a 3/4, I think, we would then craft an agreement contract which would essentially create a status for Flat Ground Road that falls somewhere between a town-accepted way and a purely private way. It would be up to me, perhaps with some assistance from Brad, to craft a rationale that would justify the public expenditure in a non-town way while also avoiding a bunch of, hey, what about our road, blowback. I suggest that the board start this process by simply noting the ongoing controversy regarding the status of the road and responsibility for maintaining the same, and then authorizing me to initiate discussions with the affected landowners to attempt to reach an agreement that would be satisfactory to the board and the landowners while keeping the town in compliance with state law. So just to recap, for people who don't know or haven't been following, it sounds like back in early 1960, the road was closed at a town meeting, but it was not followed through. It wasn't called discontinued, it was just closed, which makes it sound it's temporary. And there are people who thought it was discontinued, but it wasn't discontinued correctly by notifying all the residents on the road and filing it with registry. So here we are, how many years later, still dealing with the issue, and we'd like to put it to rest. And this is one way that we found was a way to do it.
So, and this came up again because as we started going through the warrant articles. So is this something that you want to give Mr. Lankowski permission to start researching? And are we taking it off the June warrant in hopes that they can come to some sort of agreement?
Yeah, I think that,
We wouldn't have to put this in front of the town to accept.
no.
I didn't sit on the meeting, but I believe that what I understood is that you didn't, right? Isn't that what he told you?
Mm-hmm.
That was the one meeting I wasn't here for to meet with him, so,
No, he,
okay. Yeah, I'd say we could be able to draft up something. Have Joe work on it with Brad.
So we want to give him permission to move forward?
yes.
Do we want to hear from Dennis at all? Or?
Dennis, did you want to add to that?
Wake up, Dennis.
I think he's thinking.
He's thinking, yeah.
Yes, I am thinking Dennis Long. I'm not disagreeing with what you're doing, but I don't really understand what you're doing. I didn't understand.
It would be a contract between the town and the landowners on the road to basically, I think the first thing would be to get the road up to a plowable condition and then plow it, but not become a town,
Town way.
a town way, or it would be in between, what did he call it? A town accepted way. It falls between a town accepted way and a purely private way.
Okay.
And that the town's taking some responsibility for it, for not having discontinued it correctly. But just getting it up to par to get it plowable.
Okay, we'll see what tomorrow
Which
brings.
David Winchell did say was a reasonable price.
What was a reasonable price?
Well,
Get it?
Yeah,
I don't
was gonna say,
wanna-
before you say the number out loud,
Yeah,
we
it was
really
a-
put him on the spot, and
We did.
his number, he didn't put a whole lot of thought into it, so.
I mean, we plow the mile and a half of road now. You know, we've been plowing it for years, and we've been putting gravel on it every year and improving it with drainage and stuff like that. So, we'll see what tomorrow brings.
I think the thought behind it was trying to find a happy medium.
Yeah.
Since the board can't prove that it was ever discontinued properly, they can't prove either way.
Right.
They don't think they can ever bring it up to a town road, but trying to find a happy medium with the property owners to see if you guys can come to an agreement.
Yeah.
So that they can help some, is how I took it.
Okay, thank you.
Buzzell Road.
I just thought I'd put them all on there. I'm right out of the way for you. Back to the warrant articles that we had on there,
Oh, to
our
do the
well, our budget
survey.
is high, so they've been looking to make cuts, so that's where all this comes from.
Yeah.
We had a survey on there of roughly, what did he quote us, $8 to $10,000 survey for Buzzell Road to determine if the townspeople wanted to continue to plow a small section of it, to figure out where the town line was. And this board had another thought behind it.
Did you want to speak to that
I
thought?
think that the thought is to just, there's Buzzell Road, it goes from point A. We know basically where it ends at, was it Lakeside?
Lakeside Drive?
Ends at Lakeside. Just plow it,
Can I speak
and
to
that's
this?
that.
Being on the road committee?
Yes,
Yes.
thank you. I think the cheapest way out of this and the easiest is just to gain the 2 easements you need to do it the way we've been doing it right along.
And we will charge you with that.
They would be free. They would be free, we'd save the money, and it doesn't matter whether that line's 10 feet one way or the other.
Yeah, we'll be putting you on that as well, because I think they're gonna need a turnaround down there.
So that takes
Okay.
it down to the bottom of the hill,
Yeah,
like just get to the end of the road.
yeah.
Or if you turn around in that driveway, you just need a driveway easement, and he's willing to do that. This is what the town has been doing.
Have
Thank
we
you.
spoken to the road commissioner on that side at all to,
No, we need to put a call in to have him continue to plow that.
effective
Well, I think
immediately, or are we waiting until we get some easements and
I think when we get the easements, get it all in place, and then,
we're asking the road committee to meet and do that?
Will you can get that easement soon?
I think, yeah, we have the stuff ready for it. And also, I would like to take a look, I understand there's been some changes in the warrants since the road committee meeting. I haven't been around,
Okay.
but I'd like to take a look at the warrants prior to the meeting with the budget committee.
What
I'll
warrant?
talk, yeah, I
You
don't
talking
know.
about, like,
And it-
weekly
well,
warrants or the-
Specifically the bridge, the row bridge,
Oh, that one.
yeah,
You're talking about the annual town meeting warrant?
right,
Okay.
Oh.
that's it. So,
Yeah, we don't have a draft yet, but, I mean,
Okay.
they put the, I think what you made, they did put the, you put the packet in from Mr. Winchell for whatever the road bridge, his estimation, that article is in there. And there's nothing else road related. There was some talk about, the road committee making a change to the ordinance, but I think you guys decided not to do that, right?
Right,
well, yeah, except it may, the reason we got into it was because we were trying to solve the 13th Street problem along with this. And that's why we were reviewing it. And I think that what we need to do is come back and have a meeting fairly soon, take a look at that again, and solve as many of these issues as we possibly can. And I just heard,
Yeah, I was gonna say, and the other thing before, because I think I know what you're gonna say, the other thing is that they did, ask me to reach out to Mr. Murray to ask him if he would consider the petition and the article that he moved forward that the board approved, cutting that in half by 75,000 for this year, and if it's approved, maybe 75,000 next year, because even with flat lined, with a lot of these special projects, their tax rate is looking at originally we started, a 40, 50 cents increase, so they've been looking for areas to cut, and that was one of the areas that they asked, but they haven't made a decision on it.
I understand that they put it out to a vote to their members.
Okay.
And I'm sure Arnie will be getting back to you. My concern with the road bridge is that we've got to remember this is 2 states. And we can't just go through an Augusta-based firm. We're dealing with a town, with Milton, who is already dealing with another bridge. They may have their own engineering firm. And so to think about having an Augusta firm come down here when you have experience right next door that we may be able to utilize. I'm just trying to save us some money here because this is going to be rough to pay. And also, has the report come in from Maine on 2017 yet? The bridge report.
For row? No.
Okay, both of
canal.
those should be coming in
So
anytime.
you just got one, we just forwarded you one.
Yeah, I got the New Hampshire, but the Maine one should be coming in. And there needs to be a correction on the New Hampshire one. We need to send them a letter because it is a historic designation. They said they thought it was, and sometimes this stuff doesn't get all the way up the line, and you have to be very careful about this because it extends, Acton starts on the other side of the canal, but the bridge itself is going to be a span, and this will have to be, so the abutments will go over either. We'll be responsible for that abutment. And we should be
Are
taking.
you going to schedule another road committee meeting?
I
that
think we
can discuss
should.
this So we can
And
follow the
yeah, I think
agenda?
we should, and have Dave there and go over it.
Okay.
13th, how's that? Or is-
A week
that
from
gives you
tonight?
enough time if we have to
Oh,
make
I'm
some
not-
changes?
You're out that week, right?
Yeah, I'm out that week.
You gone?
I'm gone on the 13th.
Okay. Why don't you and I get together and figure out a date,
Okay.
and then I'll contact our members. How's
Okay,
that?
good.
Okay.
And back to just for a second, the bridge engineer price, that was the number that came in from the road commissioner, right? That's the number
Yes,
that we
that
have on
came
the
in
warrant
that
now?
packet.
Okay.
New business dog warrant.
So unfortunately, we still have probably 40 to 50 dogs unlicensed in town. Turn the list over to the animal control officer, so he's working on door-to-doors. The next Tuesday night's meeting, you're gonna have to sign a warrant for the summonses to get them done.
Okay,
Generally, it's March 1st, but where you don't meet until 6, we'll give them a few extra days.
okay. Hazardous waste collection day.
So if you recall, the transfer station superintendent put this in his budget last year to have a hazardous waste collection day. He's been working closely with the company, EPI, that's going to be doing it, environmental protections, environmental projects. This all falls within the contract and within the amount that he budgeted. It's a flat $1,000 fee, plus they pick up so much per unit. This is the contract that he needs signed to move forward. So if you want to just keep it for next week, it's not until April 28th, so you'd have a week to review it if you'd like. Let me know if you have any questions. Seems pretty basic.
Oh, so it's only 3 hours that they're open? 9
Yeah.
to 12, okay. That's good to know.
Pricey for that many hours.
Yeah. Town of Milton notice. Oh, you printed those for me.
Well, this is, I don't know if this
Is
is.
this Mighty Joe?
Mighty Joe, yes. So you know what that is?
I read it today.
Okay. So I've had an attorney that's called a couple of times, and he's certainly willing to meet with you guys. For full disclosure, he's the attorney that's representing all of the abutters. And somehow, and I've read over some of the fine print, I haven't quite figured it all out yet, but Acton's being listed as an abutter, but I can't tell if it's just the community of Acton and not a piece of property, because I looked on the maps and can't find any town-owned property.
Okay, I was gonna look at the maps and I didn't.
But the zoning board, the way that this works in New Hampshire, they, they first applied for this September of 2007, and if you read all this fine print, they rejected it because the town of Acton and the town of Lebanon weren't notified. But I can't find how we're really in a butter. There's a lot of legal documents in here. He would like to have a conference call with you to see if you support it.
Knows.
But it's, basically sounds like there's a campground of some sort that's trying to double in size.
Dennis knows how we about. I'd like to hear that.
You know where Mighty Joe Campground is? Is it Mighty Joe?
Between Acton and Milton runs the Salmon Falls River,
Oh,
and that is the border.
Okay.
So any land doesn't exist that this actually touches each other.
So then we're not in a butter.
so we're on the other side of the river.
We're on the other side of the river.
Which could affect, I guess I don't know who would own that land.
Well, and if
That I
you look
don't
at
know,
there,
but-
they have a list of abutters for the notices, and we're not on there. I'm not
Yeah.
sure, so I printed it
I
off.
mean,
You guys can-
I never knew that, somebody in another state divided by a river was considered a butter, but, that's all right,
They're on Milton Three Ponds.
Right.
Mighty Joe is.
right.
So is the other side of that?
The Salmon Falls River
Right.
runs into Milton Three Ponds,
Right.
then it goes down through East Rochester, and then it goes down through Somersworth or whatever,
Yeah.
down into Portsmouth.
Yeah.
So there's no land anywhere that the river
Right.
goes under.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
If you read their minutes from the February, they mentioned the town twice in here. Anyways, if you want to read it over and just send me an email, I don't know if it's worth sending it to Brad to let him look at, or what authority we really have. But this attorney anyways, he and all of his abutters that he worked for have a lot of concerns with the doubling of this campground, and I'd kind of like to share that with you if they thought you would support that idea.
It's just a tiny bit right there.
Right. Yeah, it's
Is
almost,
this the bridge they're talking about that's not in use anymore? I'd have to look. There was a
I'd
bridge
have
there
to see it on a better map.
that's
I
closed,
mean, there's a
but
site map there of the campground, and that's the body of water. So unless that's the beginning of the Salmon Falls, but, I mean, if that isn't Acton, it doesn't, I never knew any part of that bordered.
all right, well, I'm not here March 15th to go if anybody needs to go. Okay, is that all?
Yeah, unless you have some sort of direction for me with this.
What if it's worth giving it to Ken downstairs and have him just check?
Maybe.
Okay.
You know, yeah.
And we have overdrafts.
Update from the treasurer.
Our winter, this is our winter road overdraft. So far, we are at $25,901 overspent in winter. We are allowed to go up to 15%, sorry, of the entire winter budget, right?
Right.
Allowable
So-
overdraft would be what, 104,000?
Yep.
Okay. And of that, what, 18,720 is sand salt of the overdraft, is that right? Or that's what we spent?
I'd say that's what it is, because those three numbers total the 25,900.
Oh, yeah, budgeted,
okay.
expended, yeah. So we're 18,700 over on the sand salt, so. A little over 7,200 would be the other, what would that be, labor, I guess, trucks, whatever? Yeah,
I'd say.
okay.
It's expensive to keep the roads
It is.
drivable.
And
In the
there's still-
winter.
There's still some of the best roads around in the winter.
We've had an icy season. I don't know how your driveway is, but mine was an ice rink for a couple months there. I'm gonna open up to public comment. Seeing none, I'll move on to announcements. The planning board has a public hearing on March 1st.
This is the one that was rescheduled when,
Oh, yeah. So on Thursday, March 1st at 7 PM to discuss a proposed amendment to the subdivision regulations. And that's here at the town hall. Democratic caucus is on
Sunday.
Sunday, coming up at 3:30. Come early, or 3:30 is the early time to register. You can also pre-register online, right?
Right. We had the Republican last week. What do we have? Maybe 6, 7 people from Acton at the Republican last week, once we found our room.
And that's here, right here in this room on
Correct.
Sunday. Blood drive on the 15th is 12:30 to 5:30, and that's at the rescue building. They like to have you call ahead of time, make an appointment sometimes, so
That's what it says.
check the flyer. Upcoming meetings is the planning board's 7 o'clock on Thursday the 1st. The Board of Selectmen meet on March 6th and the 13th at 5. Planning board meets again on March 15th at 7. The rec committee meets at 7 on the 15th as well. Board of Selectmen meet at 5 PM on March 20th and 27th, and the cemetery committee meets at 5 on March 29th. And this Thursday from 7 to 8 is Ed's office hours?
Yes.
Ed's office
This
hours.
Thursday. Yes.
I think that's it. Oh,
Well, it's not an announcement, sorry. Can you just take a quick look at that? That's back to the budget joint meeting. Does that look, I think you said 15 minutes was okay. Is that schedule good with you? Before we notify?
so on March 24th, starting at 9, ending about at 12, is the budget meeting with the department heads. And are the 501c3s coming in? No.
No, you didn't, I mean, you haven't said you wanted to meet with any of them.
No, we're good.
Unless there was a new one or something. No, I don't think there is. So,
Oh, looks good.
good to me.
Fire rescue has a bigger window. It seems like 15 minutes, and then there's 2 30-minute windows.
Let me see. But they were all
After
15.
9:30.
So we gave the fire and rescue right a half hour because they have
Okay.
those special articles. And then because the roads, we give them 15 minutes each.
Okay.
which
Oh, I
Total the
see.
half hour.
So it looks good
And then we go
then.
back to 15 minutes.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
I second. Oh,
Sorry, someone's raising their,
And
rolling.
on the town's meeting schedule online, Warrant Finance was meeting March 8th.
oh, can you come up here? Do you have more?
I'm just,
Yeah, come on up.
I'd be happy to,
Thank you. I'm gonna-
because I took this off the town server today. Roland Waterhouse, Warrant Finance, private citizen, whatever. On the 8th, Warrant Finance is supposed to meet at 6 PM, according to the,
So it's posted on the meeting, it just didn't make the agenda, is that what you're pointing out?
yeah.
Got it.
Also, on the 13th, Warrant Finance is meeting again at 6 PM.
Get them added to the agenda.
Thank you, dear.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right, I second the motion to adjourn. All in favor? Good night.
Great.